When you think of a serial killer from the Victorian era, Jack the Ripper likely comes to mind. But what if I told you there was another serial killer operating around the same time whose crimes were arguably much worse? On a grander scale, with more insidious means, and much more innocent victims. Today, we're delving into the dark history of Amelia Elizabeth Dyer, known infamously as Old Mother Dyer. Born in the small village of Pyle Marsh near Bristol, Amelia was the youngest of 5 siblings. Her early years were relatively bright. She was the daughter of a master shoemaker, learned to read and write, and developed a love for poetry and literature. However, her mother's severe mental illness, triggered by typhus, cast a shadow over her childhood. Amelia had to care for her ailing mother as she descended into madness. Her older sister Sarah Ann died, and another sister born later also named Sarah Ann tragically passed away a few months after birth. After her mother's death, Amelia left home, moving to Bristol where she met and married George Thomas. He was 59, and Amelia was 24. They both lied about their ages on the marriage certificate to lessen the gap. Amelia began training to become a nurse and met midwife Ellen Dane, who introduced her to the sinister practice of baby farming. Life was hard for single mothers in Victorian Britain, especially those with illegitimate children. The 1834 Poor Law Amendment Act removed any obligation for fathers to pay for their unplanned offspring, leaving mothers in a difficult financial bind. This, along with the stigmatization of single parenthood and illegitimacy, gave rise to baby farming. Individuals, often nefarious, would act as adoption or fostering agents in return for regular payments or an upfront fee from the mothers. If a child managed to find a permanent home, everyone would be happy. But these were dark times, and it wasn't uncommon for some agents to hasten the death of infants in their care. Hard drugs were easily accessible, and opium-based syrups, known as mother's friend, were used to calm babies, often easing them into starvation. Alcohol was another widely used alternative. Coroners frequently recorded deaths as debility from birth or lack of mother's milk, with starvation not uncommon even in caring homes. Parents who wanted to check on their children often faced obstacles, and many were too ashamed to pursue suspicions of wrongdoing. His was the world Amelia Dyer entered. With the birth of her own daughter and the death of her elderly husband, she needed an income. Despite years spent nursing the ill, Amelia turned to baby farming with sickening ease. She advertised to nurse and adopt babies for a substantial one-off payment along with adequate clothing for the child, assuring her clients of a warm and loving home. In 1872, Amelia married William Dyer, and they had 2 children of their own. However, this did not soften Amelia's dark heart. Growing tired of waiting for the children to starve, she began killing them outright through strangulation and other means. Long before forensic tools were available, Amelia had little trouble avoiding police attention. That changed when a doctor grew suspicious of the number of child deaths he had been called to certify at her home. Amelia was eventually charged, not with murder, but with neglect, receiving a mere 6 months of hard labor. Despite the leniency of the sentence, Amelia found it difficult. After her release, she tried to resume a nursing career, punctuated by periods in mental hospitals for alleged mental instability and suicidal thoughts. These conveniently timed disappearances coincided with increased scrutiny from authorities. Amelia had worked as an asylum nurse and knew how to act to ensure a comfortable existence there. Resuming her baby farming, Amelia became more deceptive. She no longer called doctors to issue death certificates, instead disposing of the bodies herself. Authorities continued to pursue her, especially after one mother, suspecting foul play, asked to see a birthmark on her child, only to find it missing. Amelia fled town, using multiple aliases. She eventually settled in Caversham, Reading, separating from her husband and finding a new associate, Jane Granny Smith. Jane's presence helped engender a feeling of motherly care in the eyes of unsuspecting parents. Amelia continued her dark deeds, advertising her services in Bristol newspapers under the name Mrs. Harding. She would travel to collect her latest victim, that instead of returning to Reading, would go to her daughter's house in Willesden, London. There, she used edging tape to strangle the babies, later admitting she enjoyed watching them die. She disposed of the bodies in the River Thames. On March 30, 1896, one of these packages was found by a bargeman, containing the body of Helena Fry, one of Amelia's recent victims. The police were alerted, and using a train ticket and an address found in the package, they tracked down Amelia. Raiding her home on April 3rd, officers were struck by the stench of decomposition. Though no bodies were found, they discovered telegrams and letters from mothers who had left their children with Amelia. along with adverts and reels of edging tape. They found that 20 children had been in her care in recent months. Arrested on April 4th, Amelia's home was searched, and 6 more bodies were found in the Thames. She admitted to 1 murder, absolving her daughter and son-in-law. At her trial, Amelia's defense was insanity, but the prosecution successfully argued that her mental instability was a ploy to avoid suspicion. The jury found her guilty in just over 4 minutes, sentencing her to death. On June 10, 1896, Amelia Dyer was hanged. Though charged with 6 murders, it's believed her victims numbered as many as 300 or more. Amelia Dyer's case caused a national outcry, leading to changes in adoption laws and helping establish the nfamous charity. However, baby farming continued for some time. 2 years after Amelia's death, a woman using a false name abandoned a child at a train station in Plymouth. Rail workers found the 3-week-old, cold and wet, but alive. The woman was believed to be Polly Dyer, Amelia's daughter. That concludes this dark and heavy episode. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, consider subscribing. This channel is new, and we're still deciding on content, so let us know in the comments what you'd like to see more of. Take care, and see you in the next one.